Welcome to IT Fundamentals Training Series. This is episode 33, and we are beginning chapter 4. Here we go. This is episode 33. I am your host, Mark Haupt of the IT Fundamentals Training Series. Welcome. If you haven't already, go back and re-listen or go back and listen to the first 32 episodes, and hopefully they'll be a help to you. But we do build these in modular format so you can dive straight in and perhaps only address one chapter if that's all you need to address, or some fundamentals of those chapters to help you out. This particular episode, we are going to look at operating systems in chapter 4, and we are going to just do the high-level overview that is part of the book to get you ready to jump into chapter 4. And we're going to go to page 174 to do that, or 173 actually, is where we're going to give it a start. So looking at this chapter, it's all about operating systems, and we're going to get introduced to how operating systems work and what their purposes are. And we're also going to look at managing applications and software in regards to that, how to deal with some of the things that we've dealt with in regards to GPUs and CPUs and things like that, in particular disk management, as we move forward in this. Because now we're starting to layer on software on top of all the hardware pieces of the computer. We need to make sure that that computer runs as efficiently as possible. So we're going to take a look at about how to kill processes and tasks that may be causing problems, or frankly, just to evaluate what might be causing problems on your computer in slowing it down. We're going to talk about how to deal with our memory and application management in that space. Device management, we're going to talk about how to input and build new devices, or build's probably a little strong term, perhaps insert new devices into the system from an operating system level. We've already talked about how to plug them into a PCI slot. Now we're going to talk about the drivers and the pieces that work on that. We're going to talk about the different types of OSs, or operating systems. First of all, mobile devices. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at Android and the Apple iOS, and perhaps a couple of others we might mention. Workstation operating systems like Linux, Apple iOS again, and of course the venerable Windows system that's using anywhere from 92 to 97%, depending on who you ask, of every computer that's deployed in the world from an endpoint perspective, and certainly in most homes. We're going to look at the difference between the workstation, especially the Windows workstation, and the Windows Server operating system. And then we'll also be introduced a little bit to Linux to understand how that is very effective and very efficient on a server. Then we're going to look at firmware for the embedded operating system. So going way back to like chapter 1, when we were talking about BIOSes, or BIOS, I should say, and the whole concept of firmware that exists there. And then we're going to take a look at this thing of virtualization with hypervisor. This will be a long chapter as we move forward. We're going to take a look at a couple of other concepts that you need to be starting to enter into your vocabulary, such as NTFS, or NT file system, and that's the baseline file system that current Windows systems utilize, and then there's and previous as well, and then there's FAT32, which is a file allocation table, 32-bit type of scenario. The HFS is another file system, and ext4, another system like that we need to take a look at. Then we're going to start looking at how to tune our systems with different features, like compressing the drives, and perhaps tuning it with encryption, because encryption always takes CPU overhead, but it's very important from a security perspective. And with that security, we're going to look at permissions and the logging and journaling functions that exist, and how to put limitations on to the computer to prevent a data leak. Then we're going to look at file management, how to deal with folders and directories, how to organize those folders and directories, how they are organized within the systems already, what exactly a file type extension does for the computer when you try and start up the application, and how it designates the type of application that it's going to start. And then again, we're going to take a look at permissions. Security starts becoming more and more important as we move forward. So we're going to look at services, processes, drives, and utilities. These are all functions that will allow us to, again, go back and tune our system and make sure that we are operating on a system that is fully functional and something that we actually enjoy coming to use, instead of one that bogs down and causes problems. Because I don't know about you, but if you've ever been forced to use a system that just sits there and spins, that causes all sorts of problems from being able to use it, there's almost nothing more frustrating for me than to go to a computer that's running slow, that can't get going. All right, so we're going to take a look at operating system fundamentals in our chapter 4, episode 34 function, or episode 34. Yeah, I guess I keep saying it over again, but that's what it is. So episode 34 will be about the operating system fundamentals. So come back to us on that. And I look forward to jumping into chapter 4 with you. We're actually by the time we're done with chapter 4, we're actually getting pretty close to the middle of the book. I'm going to go ahead and see where this is a very long chapter, by the way. Chapter 5. So yeah, when we are done with chapter 4, we're at the middle of the book from the literal perspective, meaning the center of everything's going on. There are 10 chapters. Is that it? Nope, there's 11. So from a chapter perspective, we're not quite to the end of the book, but there are 11 chapters. And so you can see, there you go. That's how much more we have to go after chapter 4. So we'll get there. We'll get there by the end of the quarter, like we talked about. That's our goal. End of September is for you to get to the end of this chapter 11 and be ready and able to take the IT fundamentals test. Now, I'm not IT fundamentals certified, but I'm considering going and taking the test just for the fun of it, to see what I might get. Especially after going through this with you. It looks like I've learned a lot myself already. So let's take a dive into chapter 4 with episode 34 next. This is the close of episode 33. Reminder for you to get a hold of me, mhaupt@commonsensesecurity.net. Let me know how you're doing and how I can help you. All right, later on.